D Mace, Vingan and Donick, 1025, 1063 The Game. Broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, and Adam Vingan here with you on Wednesday. Derek just rolling right in during the show intro. You made it.
I'm coming in hot, man.
It's one of my specialties.
That's what happens when you're having a discussion with your son. And it wasn't like a bad discussion, just discussion about life and things moving forward. And then you look at the time like, oh my goodness, it's that time. Okay, then you got to rush out the house. So there you go. Sometimes, you gotta stand in there when your kids want to talk or you want to discuss something. So you gotta stand in there and discuss it, and hopefully it ends quicker.
I have a bone to pick this morning. Not with you, Derek.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
I have a bone to pick with someone else at this station.
Are they here now?
Somebody not in this room?
Someone that's not in this room or in the adjacent room. So it's
Okay.
not you, David.
Thank goodness.
I would
Take a wild
venture
guess.
to take it Jarrett.
No, it's not Jared.
Oh wow. It's not Jarrett?
No,
Of all people?
no. Who do you
Oh,
think it
wow.
is?
I see
Is it
somebody,
Dr. Crane?
I see
It's-
somebody
it's
back
not
there
Frazier.
waiting.
It's not
It's not
Frazier.
Frazier. Willie?
No, it's not Willie.
Okay,
I
you
said
said
he's
it
not in the
this room.
room.
Wow.
Does he work on the morning show?
He does.
Robbie.
No.
Joe.
Yes.
Oh, I should have known. Joe should have been my second
I know.
guess.
I am trying to reassess. I feel like we should have guessed that.
Exactly.
Much
Joe
easier
should have
than we
came
did.
out
Yeah.
second.
So I come in early today after the morning show so that Robbie and Nick Keyser and I can record Preds Insiders, which you can listen to tonight at 6 o'clock. And we use one of the auxiliary studios. We book that time so we can come in and be efficient.
Mm-hmm.
And I get here, and Robbie is sitting outside the studio. Keyser is sitting outside the studio. Paul Kaharski is still here. He's sitting outside the studio. Rexroad's car is in the parking lot. I don't know where Rexroad is. He's in the studio doing an interview for a story, and he was in there for 30 minutes.
Oh my good. Didn't he realize y'all had a prior engagement in that room?
Apparently not. And look, that 30 minutes, that's an important time for me because I get here early enough that after I record the show, before this one starts, I run down the street, I get something to eat, but I was getting hangry because I knew that with the time we finished recording the show, I wouldn't have enough time to leave. So I went into the break room and got a Snickers because when you're hungry, grab a Snickers.
Exactly.
And it got stuck in the machine.
Oh man.
But
Wow.
fortunately, Keyser wiggled it free for me, so I'm not hangry.
Okay.
But Rexroad, you're on my list, bud. I know you're listening.
Okay. So Keyser, what method did he use?
Did he
Keyser,
use the shape?
he's got a little Hanson Brothers feel to him. You know, he just doesn't have the flowing hair. He's got the glasses though. So did he do the Hanson Brothers move from Slapshot where you just smash the soda machine until the stuff comes out?
He gave it a couple of.
Or was it like a Fonzarelli, just kind of the magic? You know, he's got the little pep.
Yeah.
He just bapped it one time and the drink comes out.
It was semi Fonzarelli.
It
It took
okay.
a couple taps.
So he had the
or
touch.
Fred Sanford. You know, when Fred had to get his glasses, he hit the side of the table, pop, 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 and then pulled it out.
But I didn't want to come on this show hangry. And Joe Rexroad, he
Okay,
nearly
so-
made it possible.
So he's in the doghouse. Right
He
now.
is in the doghouse. He was conducting an interview for a story. And look, I get it. I did that many a time. Sometimes when you're not at home, you have to find a quiet place to do an interview. But there are many other quiet places that you can do an interview and not in the studio where Robbie and I will bring to you Preds Insiders tonight at 6 o'clock. So Rexroad, if you're listening, I accept your apology. I know you're listening. I accept your apology through the airwaves. So speaking of the Predators, another tough game for them last night. They fall 4-3 in regulation to the Calgary Flames. Their winless streak reaches 8 games. It's their longest winless streak since April of 2013. They went 0-7-1 through that stretch. They're 0-5-3 through this stretch. I heard Robbie this morning say that just in terms of losses, regardless of the kind of loss, this is tied for the longest losing streak they've had in franchise history, I believe, with that 8-game winless streak back in 2013. But no matter how you slice it, you know, another disappointing outcome. Although I feel like, hey, First of all, they scored 3 goals.
Mm.
Let's give them a polite round of applause for scoring 3 goals, which they had not done in a couple of weeks since their last win against the Winnipeg Jets on November 23rd. They scored 3 goals at 5 of applause for that. Jonathan Marchessault, who we've been hard on, had 2 goals at 5-on-5. Good for Jonathan Marchessault. But at the end of the day, a loss is a loss. And, I really don't know where they go from here. We're going to play some of the audio from Barry Trotz in his interview with Jared yesterday. Some really interesting things he said there. But, it's just...
But you have to mention the headline.
We have not gotten there.
Yes. There were circumstances.
Yes, we did not get there. Roman Josi suffered a lower body injury in the first period. Now, Willie, I don't recall a specific play where this happened. Do you?
I do not.
Okay.
I don't know the extent going forward, which is a huge question because they had already lost Alex Carrier the game before. They had lost Jeremy Lauzon a couple weeks ago. So now we're digging into 3 of your top 4 defensemen, and the 4th guy at the top, unfortunately, has still not played very well, and that's Brady Shea, who struggled again last night. That was a game where you desperately needed the one guy who's experienced and skilled with some offense from the blue line. This could have been his. Maybe you find a way to maybe that jumpstarts your season. That didn't happen. They also, just minutes before the game, had no idea this was coming, that Gus Nyquist fell ill. They didn't have him. So on top of not having Ryan O'Reilly, your number 1 center, you lose another top-line guy. So it's ironic that Marchessault goes up to the first line with Stamkos and Forsberg, and they made a couple of plays. I didn't think they were great throughout the game, but they did make some plays. And that's what has been a huge issue all year long is getting a lot of shots, getting a lot of looks at the net, getting a lot of offensive zone time, but not making plays. What's weird about last night is they went backwards in that area, especially after Josi went down. But they did make some plays. And they didn't get as good a goalie performance as they've been getting. The first goal was one where I think UC Saros, 98 out of 100, gloves that shot, harmless shot, cleanly. He lost it. And then he got run into and he kicked it in to the goal. So when it rains, it pours. It's like everything that can go wrong goes wrong. But they were really thin last night. And the disappointing thing to me, I was hoping against a team that is not very good. The Flames, especially on the road, have struggled. But when they lost Josi, you're hoping with the lead that they can have some like maybe a coming out party of some young players who are getting a chance to play. You're rallying around not having Josi, but it kind of went the other way. The Flames dominated the second period. I think the shot attempts were 32-10. They just they started taking on water. They couldn't get out of it. The 5 defensemen did not gel, and that's where they lost the game. And then they had chances in the third period at the end. They hit the post. They had great, a couple of really good looks in the final minute in the 6-on-5 to try to get it to overtime. But it's just one of those things. It's Barry Trotz to me yesterday, guys, sounded like he was on the couch getting, having a therapy session with Jared. Like he poured his heart out. He talked about everything. That was not an interview that you can summarize in one clip or 2 clips, right? He talked about all kinds of things. It's been really, really frustrating from the start.
It was the Titans and the Jags all over again. 2 bad teams come in. And when you're in a position like that, you can't afford to lose guys. And unfortunately for the Nashville Predators, they lost one of their best guys last night. And you don't know the timetable on him when he's scheduled to come back. So now, you've essentially, I'm not going to say you dug yourself a deeper hole, but it's just it's where you're at now. And this typically happens, when you don't start the season off well, it's not going well. And all of a sudden it's like insult to injury. Something else happens and then something else happened. And it's just like, when we thought we were close, a goal here, goal there. Now you look at it and say, are we even in a position after losing, X amount of guys? Are we even in a position to make a run in second half of the season? I'm not sure if they are. And it's just unfortunate because, as Barry said yesterday, the expectations were through the roof, and they have not come close to meeting those expectations. And just when you think after the first period, like, okay, this may be going our way, then Roman Yoshi goes down. Now you're looking around and you're trying to figure out, well, who's going to be the next guy? Well, Marshall, so he stepped up and scored 2 goals, but it has to be just more than him if you want to make any type of salvage of the season. This is not about the playoffs anymore. It's just about salvaging your season and trying to, pick up some momentum somewhere in the second half of the season.
So to further the Roman Josi conversation, he suffered a lower body injury last night, missed the second and third periods. There was no update after the game, and they're not practicing today. So the next time the Predators will be on the ice is tomorrow morning in Dallas for their morning skate ahead of the game against the Stars. So that's when we'll get our first indication of whether Roman Josi will play or not. But as Willie mentioned, the Predators are down their top line center and Ryan O'Reilly. They're missing Carrier. They're missing Lausanne. Now they're missing Josi. You assume hope Nyquist comes back into the lineup tomorrow night, but you're missing, as Willie said, 3 of your top 4 defensemen, your top line center. You can't win games. You can't score. And Barry Trotz said a couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was last week in his conversation with Jared, that he's giving the team probably until the Christmas break to show him something, to inspire some confidence.
It may be sooner than that now.
It could, but even then, they have 6 games left before Christmas. They play these 2 on the road Thursday and Saturday at Dallas and at Colorado. Then they come home for 4 games against the Rangers, Penguins, Kings, and Hurricanes. Those are some tough games. I mean, the Rangers are desperate. They're in a spiral right now. The Penguins have been up and down, but the Kings are good. The Hurricanes are good. We know the Stars and the Avalanche are good as well. So, it could get even uglier. And I wonder what changes, because in terms of the roster, they're locked into these bigger contracts. They only have so many waiver exempt players that they can send down. So if you're looking to bring up players, you may just have to swap the young players you have now with other young players. But if you're looking to get younger players into the lineup, it may be making another tough roster decision, some of which we've already seen. So, there's no shockwave inducing move that I can see on this roster that the Predators can make. It's not like, trading, I'm just throwing a name out there. Obviously, like trading Philip Forsberg, like that's not going to happen. Like Philip Forsberg, even if they wanted to, it wouldn't happen because he has full control over his situation if he wants to be here. But I don't know what the answer is. Like, I don't know what they can do.
Well,
this thing could get pretty ugly, because I told y'all I was worried about the Titans and the Cincinnati Bengals, because the Cincinnati Bengals average just over 28 points a game. This can get really, really ugly for the Titans, and I think this can get really, really ugly for the Nashville Predators. They're going up against 2 high-powered teams in Dallas and Colorado. These next 2 games could be almost like an organizational shift, if indeed they go and they don't put up any resistance against these 2 teams. And I say the same thing for the Titans. If they don't put up any resistance to the Cincinnati Bengals, this could be an organizational shifting type of game. And I think that about the Predators, their next 2 games.
Well, and when you say shift, I do think about what Barry Trotz said yesterday. He did sort of introduce something that may be the mindset in the next few weeks as you assess at Christmas, because they're digging a deeper hole here, and it's going to be that the longer you go, especially if Yossi's out for any significant time. Ryan O'Reilly did skate yesterday, so I don't think he's out that long. The question is, will he be 100% when he comes back, or he seems to me to be a guy that he'll battle through even if he's less than 100%. He'll still try to find a way to get in the lineup, but even he has not had a great year, and I think he's been banged up some. But to your point, Adam, I think Barry Trotz sort of introduced maybe it's just not your year. You're not going to change your long-term game plan, which to his credit, if you listen from the start, he's always said, hey, I don't know what this is going to be for the next couple of years, but the long-term plan is we feel like we got a lot of assets in the minors. We like our young players, and in the coming years, we want to get them going. So let's just take last night in the idea of this is an off year. Maybe you get a high pick. Maybe you're a seller at the deadline. And then you come into next year hoping that you can have a bounce back and get back into being a relevant team that's back on the beam, trying to get into the playoffs and do something while Roman Josi, UC Saros, Philip Forsberg still have fuel in the tank in their primes. I think that's a reasonable goal as you sort of shift away from getting things done this year. The first chapter last night, you look at a line that they put together. Zach LaRue, Fedor Svechkov, and now why am I blanking on the third guy on that line? With 3 young players. Who's the third guy on that line? Anyway, Juuso Parssinen thrown in there because Nyquist was out. So 3 young players that are trying to make impression of being on the next really good Predators team, being on the Predators for a long time. And unfortunately, it didn't go well for those 3 last night. It didn't help. The blue line was so messed up after Josi was out and already not having Carrier, the first game without Carrier. That was a factor. But I would have loved to have seen, especially against a lesser team like the Flames, where you got a big play from one of those guys on that line. And they were not a big factor in the game. So, but those are guys to watch, right? Now they have no pressure on them at all. If they make an amazing run, so be it. But if not, let's see what they can do. They're still really, really young, but they just sort of need to play through the mistakes. I think that's what I heard a little bit from Barry Trotz. You now have an opportunity. And last night I thought a positive was Tommy Novak, Luke Evangelista. They played a really good game. That was probably their best game of the year, I thought. And they were pretty good in Ottawa. I'm hoping that trends in the right direction because that's something that really needs to happen long term is you start getting production from those guys.
I think we're going to start thinking about the Predators in a way that we're sort of thinking about the Titans over these next 4 games, which is see what you have. See, as Willie said, see what you have in the younger players who can be a part of the solution. Barry Trotz has said multiple times that he will bring up younger players. So maybe we'll see someone such as Joakim Kemmel or Reed Schaefer. Some of these highly touted prospects get some NHL playing time. At the end of the day, this was not where the Predators wanted to be. We all know that. But one thing we talked about last week, we had a really good caller from Matt. He called and was talking about something I said a couple of years ago about the Predators needing to get worse before they can get better. Well, they didn't intend to get worse to be this bad, but maybe it puts them in position to draft high and take the type of player that they normally would not be able to take. And I know we're a long way from that. I mean, the NHL draft isn't until June. We're not going to be doing NHL draft talk around here. But, it may be part of the silver lining in some of this, if it continues to go this way, is you get an opportunity to get that player that, look, Barry Trotz in these first couple of drafts he's been a part of, he's tried to be aggressive to move up into the top of the draft. It hasn't worked. He might not have to try because he might just have that pick now.
He might have, if he gets some ping pong balls that bounce his way, you could be pretty far up there. And we'll see what happens. But I would use the example of 2013, a lockout shortened season where the Predators in 2011 and 2012 had 1 playoff series. They beat the Ducks in the first round, lost to the Western Conference champion Canucks in 6 in 2011. They beat the Red Wings in the first round of 2012 and then lost the series that I thought they could have won. That was unfortunate against the Coyotes. They missed a chance there. And that was the debacle with Radulov and getting caught past curfew, and he got benched in the middle of the series. That was a nightmare. But those were 2 really good Predator teams, right? Two of the best they'd had. The emergence of Suter, Weber, and Rene as stars. The following year, Ryan Suter went to free agency. Pekka Rinne got injured. The whole team got hurt. They collapsed. Long story short, but they got the 4th pick in the draft, and they got Seth Jones. They also traded Martin Erat and got Philip Forsberg. So it sped up what could have been a lengthy rebuild, and 2 years later, they were right back into contention with Peter Laviolette and had a great run after that. So this might be that reset year where just nothing goes your way. Everything you planned didn't go right, but you come back the following year and hopefully you have some benefit for it.
615-737-1025. We'll take your thoughts on the Predators. They lose again 4-3 to the Calgary Flames. Their winless streak reaches 8 games, their longest in more than a decade. 615-737-1025. Chris Mason, Willie's partner on television broadcast on FanDuel Sports Network. He'll join us coming up next. We'll get his thoughts on the state of the Predators and where they go from here. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025-1063 The Game. D Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 1025, 1063. The Game, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you, joined on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, by Predators television analyst Chris Mason. Chris, a very quick look at your hockey reference page tells me that you were part of the Predators team that had an 8-game winless streak in 2012, 2013. And I can only imagine how demoralizing it is in the dressing room right now, considering everything that could go wrong has go wrong. When you look back to your experience, I mean, how do players manage a situation like this?
What are you trying to say, that it's my fault, Adam? Is that what
I am not. I am not
That's
saying
what I
it's
was
your
getting
fault.
out of it, C. Mace.
No.
Yeah.
Don't put words in my mouth.
What year was that?
That was 2012, 2013.
Oh yeah, that was the well, we actually had a similar situation. That was the Seth Jones year, the lockout year. But yeah, honestly, you know what? It is tough. I think when you just look at the guy's body language on the ice, look at the post game media, you're fighting so hard to build yourself up every day. It's not fun. I mean, Adam, you covered the team, through some good and bad, and when you come to the rink and you can just tell by the guy's demeanor after something like this goes on for a long time, it becomes a real issue. It's not fun to go to the rink because it's such an effort just to get your mind in a place where you can feel some sort of optimism, something positive. You look at every single game, even, last night's a game where, quite honestly, they did a lot of good things. They battled, they did some good things, but it's overshadowed by the second period. They had a terrible second period. There's events in games that they're not able to recover from. And you see the sag, everything could be going well. The first period, they're playing great. They're battling. They're at home. They're competing. They look like, they're going to take this game if they can continue to play like that. One thing happens, boom, right back down. And it's just, obviously lose the game there in the second period. You fight back at the end, but too little, too late. And that's just been the story. It is just a mental battle every single day. Winning cures everything. There hasn't been any of that. There's no joy. There's no fun when you're in a situation like this at all.
And this is when you lean on your leaders, your Steven Stamkoses, your Jonathan Marchessaults. I know that Ryan O'Reilly is out injured. Roman Josi left the game last night, but a lot of veteran experience in that room. As you said, in the second period, things went awry, and it seems a lot this season that when faced with some adversity, the Predators don't rise to the occasion. I'm wondering if that surprises you, considering the championship medal and the veteran experience that's in that dressing room.
It does. I mean, it does. That's gone on this long. But I mean, if you look at the situation now, on top of the previous players that they lost, Lauzon, Carey, Ryan O'Reilly, who's a massive loss, and then you lose Roman Josi. I mean, you're stuck with only 2 NHL defensemen that started the year on the roster. You've got 3 guys in the American League, and albeit they're doing a great job, and I think there's some good play and some good potential with these guys, but it's not, these aren't the go-to guys, and it's one hit after another. Having said that, I think we've seen in the past too with this team, when situations like that have happened, they've been able to endure. They've been able to have guys really step up, beyond an expected role in a situation. I look at a guy like Juuso Parssinen. I want to see him go out and just go after people, just impose his game, his physicality on another team. He's got the stature, he's got the skills, he's got the tool set to be able to do that. But I think along with everybody else, he's so fragile in the confidence department. But I see when I'm in a situation, if I'm a young guy, that's how I got to the NHL. I got there because somebody else got injured and I got an opportunity. And there was a point in my career when I thought to myself, I'm like, I don't know if I'll ever get this chance again. I'm not a blue chip prospect. I'm not, somebody that's going to get a chance after chance. And I feel like some of these guys, have to take that situation. Anyone in that locker room can be a leader. It doesn't have to be because you won a Stanley Cup or because you're a veteran. Obviously that helps. But I think at this point, you're searching for anyone to step in and do something.
Now, C. Mace, is that what possibly can be some of the conversation Someone blaming it on you. 'Cause
I
I'm
think
sure,
Adam was
I'm
blaming
sure
Chris.
Barry was there as well too. So we can say Barry or you.
Barry was behind the bench, so
Yeah, so hey, we might be able to put more of the problem toward Barry than anybody. But no. But when you're in a situation like this, and you just mentioned, these young guys, thinking, hey, this is an opportunity for me to show that I can play, show that I deserve to be in this league. Is that a conversation that a veteran guy in a situation like this can have with a young player? Set him aside. Hey, listen, young guy, this is your opportunity. Take full advantage of it now, because listen, you may not get this opportunity again. So the veteran guys on the Nashville Predators are talking to the younger guys, letting them know that, take advantage of an opportunity. It may not be the most opportune opportunity in regards of the team as a whole, but this is a opportunity for you to come in here and show that you belong.
Absolutely. I mean, I think you have to find any way to drag everyone else into the fight. Find purpose. This team is lost right now. They don't know who they are, identity wise. It's been a struggle to score goals. It shouldn't be that way, but it is. They're losing players left and right now. And I think for the veteran, you gotta say, hey guys, this is, you're a young guy coming in this league. Go out there, play with purpose, understand the situation. Don't be scared to make plays. I know you don't want to make a mistake, but you can't play like that. This is a huge opportunity, and honestly, one that could define somebody's career. You look at a guy like Nick Blankenburg. He's coming up. He played a handful of games, but he keeps getting sent down to the minors, or nobody wants to fully commit to giving him a full-time role in the National Hockey League. Willsby's getting a chance to play with Roman Josi before he got hurt. He's taken on big minutes. All these guys, and who's ever in the lineup, I already mentioned Juuso Parssinen. If I'm a veteran on that team, I'm 100% telling these guys, we need you. If we're going to turn this around, we can't just rely on the names and the Hall of Famer and all this kind of credentials that you could throw out there. We need every single guy, because everyone's going to play an important role with all these injuries mounting up. And you've seen it before. It's going to take one thing. It's going to get on a roll, hopefully, and turn it around. But it's just the longer it goes, the longer you think that's never going to happen. But if it is going to happen, you're going to need those young guys to be big contributors.
Chris Mason is with us, and Mace, I want to look at it from the coach's point of view here, because I do think as the attention or the focus shifts away from the pressure of got to win this game, got to get back in it, to reality of, hey, it's a long shot, and now we're shifting over to let's see what we have in these young players. I wonder how Andrew Brunette deploys and coaches, because I think too, what goes with that, and we saw this at the trade deadline, not last year, but the year before, when the weight is lifted and you loosen up, sometimes you can start playing a lot better. And not only the young players could play better and maybe not worried about making a mistake or something like that, but also the veterans who have struggled, maybe they start playing better. I'm looking at that, because somewhere in here, like you said, getting out of this funk is the first priority, but maybe that's how you get out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think if it gets to that point, that's obviously an organizational, prerogative if they decide to do that. But it would make coaching so much easier, because you could say, listen, you know what, I'm going to play the guys who play, who do, abide by the system and playing hard and competing every single night. If you don't, you're not playing. I mean, it just takes it. It's like, if you're young, I don't care if it's your first year, if it's your 50th year, if you're not going to play the way that, that it takes to compete and win in this league, then, you're going to take some time on the bench, and I don't care who it is. And it does lift the weight. You just play. You're like, you know what? There's just so much. It was just the energy down there. I was between the benches last night. You could just feel it. Again, you fight so hard to get that and start the game, and it felt good, and it was loose, and they were confident. But then it's one thing happens, and it kind of leads to another, and ends up in that sag again. But I think when you take the shackles off mentally, the weight, as you said, I think, that's something that's, especially for the coaching staff, then you're not worried about tweaking lines. I'm just going to let you go play. You're going to make mistakes. We'll go over video and we'll talk about it. We'll get better here. We'll see what you got. You're getting a huge opportunity. Just go play. Have fun. Go play. You're not thinking, oh my God, we're 13 points out. That means we have to win, 15 games and can only lose 2 in this stretch, and then we need help and all this kind of stuff. You're not thinking about that. You're just going out and playing. But it'll be interesting to see how they decide to proceed here moving forward.
I thought one positive last night. I thought Tommy Novak, Luke Evangelista, Mark Jankowski, that looked like the line that was so good last year. They scored a goal. They made a play. They were consistently pressuring on offense. They looked like they were doing the things. To me, that was maybe the number one positive that came out of last night.
Yeah, I think you're looking for that every game. Who's gonna step up? I thought Marchessault played really good. You saw him around the net, and there's some chemistry, I think, with Stamkos and Forsberg, an opportunity to play with the two top guys that are left anyway. And then I thought that line was good. I mean, we talk about last season because that's when I feel they set the standard. But when you look at their success, that line and Tommy Novak and Evangelista's development and Mark Jankowski's ability to come in and, play a well-rounded game and has chemistry with those guys, they were such a huge part of the reason why the Preds were so successful in the second half. And we just haven't seen that. There's been the first line and the fourth line, I feel kind of, got settled, partway through the season. Then it's the second and third line. There just hasn't been any, consistent production in that department all season long. So I'm hoping that, that's a sign of things to come. It looked like Tommy Novak had a ton of jump, making plays, holding on to the puck, have that confidence, same with Evangelista, and then Jankowski doing his thing. So hopefully they can keep it going. It's going to be it's a tough trip here too. You got to go to Dallas and then Colorado, who's playing well right now. So hopefully these guys can keep it going and more guys can get on board.
Chris Mason, Predators television analyst, joining us here on D Mace, Vingan and Donick. Chris, great stuff. I would never blame you for anything, just so you know. Don't let Derek influence you in any way, shape, or form. But great stuff as always. Enjoy your flight, and we'll talk next week.
All right. Thank you, guys. Take care.
Yep. Chris Mason joining us on the program, 615-737-1025. We'll continue the conversation coming up next. But before we do, tomorrow, it's your chance to participate in Preds Pick to Click. If you correctly guess a Preds player that scores a goal in the Preds game tomorrow night, you win a pair of tickets to an upcoming Preds home game. Participate with Robbie and Rexro tomorrow morning at 8:45.
All right, let's talk League Company. The Predators back in action tomorrow night against the Dallas Stars. We'll have all the coverage for you here on 102.5 The Game. And our coverage will be brought to you in part by League Company. In business since 1944, 80 years of service. They definitely have a system that has worked for a long time. It's worked for us in the Donick house. We've got an old house on the east side built in 1913. And from time to time, you got to do some maintenance on your house. You got to keep it in order. That's how you keep it going. And League Company helps us with that, with their home maintenance plan, their year-round annual checkups with the heating, air conditioning, plumbing, and electrical systems. You get the checkups every year, you pay a small monthly fee, and you get discounts on the repairs. 615-567-1000. Find out more about this home maintenance plan because it works for you. Preventive maintenance, save money over the long term. LeagueCompany.com is the website. 615-567-1000 or LeagueCompany.com. League Company, in service in our area since 1944.
Nashville's best deal this week is 312 Pizza Company in Germantown. 312 Pizza Company serves the best pizza in town, as well as Chicago-style eats like Chicago dogs, Italian beef sandwiches, and more. Check them out at 371 Monroe Street in Germantown, or order takeout online at 312pizzaco.com. Head to theGameNashville.com/deals now to get half off a $30 gift card to 312 Pizza Company while supplies last. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, and Adam Vingan here with you talking Predators. And Barry Trotz, in his many conversations with Jared, has talked about what could happen if this season falls away. And if we're not there yet, we're pretty close. I mean, it's getting to the point where the playoffs are probably a pipe dream. It's hard to say that on December 11th, but statistically, it's going to take a streak like the one they had last season, maybe even a better one, to get them back into the mix. So if we're looking at the Predators, let's open the book, so to speak, and look at the Predators' salary cap. Now, the salary cap will go up. I did not see what Gary Bettman-Willie said yesterday about what the projection is going to be.
He said it will go up 5%, which is up to $92 million. It's at $88 million right now. And he said, if anything, there could be further discussions regarding how they calculated everything with escrow during the lockout. It's not the lockout, during the pandemic, where they couldn't have fans for the better part of a full year and a half. So the revenue that was lost, there was a lot of calculation. So there is maybe some thought that the league is so healthy now that they could even add to that salary cap number. But it's going to go minimum up to $92 million.
So the Predators, they don't have a lot of salary coming off the books. Even if the salary cap rises or will rise, they don't have a lot of salaries coming off the books. The most notable unrestricted free agent they have is Gus Nyquist. Gus Nyquist's contract expires after the season. He makes roughly $3.2 million per season. They've got a couple of restricted free agents like Luke Evangelista and Juuso Parssinen, but there's no big contract that's about to come off.
But they do have the Ryan Johansson $4 million.
Yes,
that will come off the books.
That will. So they will have some room to play with. But when we're looking at the roster as it stands and moves they could make if things progress the way they seem to be progressing. I mean, Gus Nyquist is a prime candidate to be traded. He's been traded at the deadline, even before the deadline, many times in his career. I can think of two off the top of my head. So he's used to that. Alex Carrier, who's currently injured, he signed for 3 more years with a $3.75 million cap hit. When I read stories about potential trade candidates, he's on them all the time. I just read one this morning by Nick Kyprios of Sportsnet. Alex Carrier was on that list. We heard Elliot Friedman mention Jeremy Lauzon, another injured defenseman currently, who could garner some interest. But barring one of these players with trade protection, Philip Forsberg, Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Marchessault, Roman Josi, Brady Shea, UC Saros. Now, here's the interesting thing about UC Saros, and I can't imagine a scenario where this happens, but UC Saros doesn't have trade protection yet. That's the contract that starts next season. But I can't imagine that. I'm just saying.
The core players are set, and that's basically every team in the league has made choices with long-term contracts that they're going to have, barring something crazy. So, I think you assessed it pretty well. The guys, they're going to be here next year. And if it does, and this is the saying that every general manager will tell you, and Barry Trotz, I think, set the table for this with his comments yesterday. The team will tell you, right? Last year he said it. He was thinking, hey, maybe I'll be a seller again, and I'll load up a little bit more for the future. And then his team told him, no, we want to make a run. And they started beating good teams. They started stringing together wins. Like, okay, I'll reward them with a couple of veteran players at the deadline. He doesn't have to decide anything today, but if it keeps going in this direction, right now the team is telling him not only are they not going to make the playoffs, but they don't look like a team that's going to rally for any. They can't put anything together right now. I was hoping to see a little bit more last night, even with the adversity, of a sense of urgency, desperation. We're going to find a way to get that team into overtime. They're playing the Calgary Flames. They weren't playing the Toronto Maple
A
Leafs.
team that had not won on the road.
No, that was a poor road
month
team.
and a half.
A poor road team, a rebuilding team is what the Flames are. And that's what they could muster last night. And I am the first to tell you, when you lose Roman Josi and you're playing without Ryan O'Reilly, and then all of a sudden you learn you don't have Gus Nyquist, that's tough. That's tough. But yet, they're in a tight game. They still, in the find a way, right now, they continue to lose games by a goal. They're a play or two away every night, and it just doesn't happen. And so it's disappointing. So my point is, the team is right now in a direction of not your year. Okay, I hope that changes. It could start tomorrow night. You upset the Dallas Stars, maybe that changes. It's weird how the energy can change in a very short period of time. But right now, if they are in the sell mode, you could take the pressure off. It's a see what you've got. Look at the young guys, which you have a lot of that you'd like to take a look of, and you hope that a couple of them hit. And I think you hit on the guys that they could trade. But they're going to have next year O'Reilly, Marchessault, Stamkos, Forsberg, Josi. I would say probably Carrier, definitely Brady Shea. And that's the nucleus of your team. But then everything else can be retooled. You've got a chance to make some moves for sure. And it's just a matter of how you want to make moves.
And the most important thing, and you have emphasized this, Willie, I've heard it emphasized many times. The silver lining in all of the moves that the Predators made this offseason is that the only asset they spent is cash. They did not trade a first-round pick for Steven Stamkos. They have 3 first-round picks. Their first-round pick may be at the top of the draft, but they also have Tampa Bay's first-round pick, and they have Vegas's first-round pick.
Yeah, likely Vegas. Yeah, it looks like it will be Vegas's first-round pick. It's the lower pick of San Jose's 2 picks, which will very likely be Vegas.
Right. Pick. But with the way the Predators season is gone, we thought, hey, the Predators may use those first-round picks to trade for someone who can help them now as they're trying to win a championship. That may not happen. Now, so that means that if Barry Trotz wants to go into the draft this summer with 3 first-round picks and hopefully add 3 top-flight talents to their prospect cupboard, it could end up being a good thing in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, maybe so. If you've got to hit on the picks, I mean, that's another thing that is not always easy to do. You take your swings, you hope with volume, as many picks as they have, that you find 2 or 3 really good difference makers down the road. Those guys aren't going to help you next year.
No.
Or the year after, probably. Now, maybe if you have a top 3 or 5 pick, maybe you get a guy that can help you next year. That has hardly ever happened in Predators history because they usually don't have access to those guys. Now, Seth Jones, that one year we talked about where they collapsed and got the 4th pick, Seth Jones was ready to jump into the league the next year, and they used him to get Ryan Johansson. So there's a lot of things that can happen. I am curious now, as the pressure comes off, what happens now night in and night out? Who starts to relieve change the energy and start playing well? They can't play a whole lot worse than they've played. And I don't think they will continue to play this poorly for the rest of the year. But for the big picture, can Marchessault find his place? Can Stamkos find his place? Can Novak, Evangelista, Svechkov find their place? That's the number one goal, regardless of where the team finishes by the end of the year. They've got to find that long term.
615-737-1025. We're going to switch gears here and talk with our friend Jonathan Hutton from Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow. We'll get into the Titans. We'll get into the college football playoff and much more with Hutton. But before we do, tune into the Chase and Big Joe show tomorrow from 9 to 11 for your chance to qualify to win a pair of tickets in the all-inclusive Eurostone Club at Bridgestone Arena and see Brett Eldridge live on Friday, December 20th, 1 week from Friday. The Brett Eldridge ticket contest is supplied by Green Trees, a family-owned cannabis company. Check them out online at greentreeswithaz company.com.
All right, let's talk Loan Pronto. 2025 is just around the corner. And if you are looking past the holidays and saying, okay, when it gets to 2025, I need to get my ducks in a row, you don't even have to wait that long, because Loan Pronto can get you on your way to better financial situations for 2025 in just a few days. It's their AI-driven tech called Rapid Equity Loan. Loan Pronto's Rapid Equity Loan uses AI-driven tech to get you approved for cash out in as little as 1 day. And I'm talking about as a homeowner from your home's equity. So if you are getting bogged down by high interest loans, a car payment, a credit card bill, etc., you can improve your situation through Loan Pronto. So one client, for example, got $100,000 approved in under 24 hours, wiped out the debt, launched a home improvement project, and is saving $1,000 a month. That's the idea behind Loan Pronto's Rapid Equity Loan. So find out now by calling 615-499-5780 how much you can qualify for and save. 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. That's loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781 on approved credit, NMLSconsumeraccess.org. All right, let's talk F&M Bank. Banking made easy on purpose. That sounds like a great motto, especially when it comes to your finances. F&M Bank has all the needs that you need, and they're right smack dab in the middle of your community. Mount Juliet, Springfield, Murfreesboro, West End Avenue in Nashville. 20 locations in total, on into Hopkinsville, Kentucky. 6 in Clarksville. Just find the nearest location to you at myfmbank.com. They've got tools to help you save money. Here's one, very simple: the Smart Swipe debit card. Every time you make a purchase with that debit card, just do your thing, go shopping, go get coffee, go get lunch, and it will round up to the nearest dollar. Every time you use that card, you're saving money, because little by little, they're going to put that extra coinage in your savings account, and over time, you're going to build some savings. Simple way to save money. Great way to go. Just one of many tools at F&M Bank. Just go to myfmbank.com. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
D. Mays, Finnegan, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, and Adam Vingan here with you, joined, as we are every Wednesday at noon, by Jonathan Hutton from Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow Hutton. We've spent so much time talking about the college football playoff, the projections of the college football playoff. We finally know what the college football playoff is going to be. What did you learn about how the committee might look at this playoff format going forward based on the field they selected over the weekend?
Well, I mean, first, Alabama is one of the top 12 teams in the country. They told us that. They're ranked 11th. I don't know what the committee does going forward other than just follow the protocol and the system and the format that they are told to follow. That's really the flaw in all of this for me is the fact that Boise State has a bye, and the fact that Penn State at the 5 spot is in a great position on paper. I mean, we play the games, but on paper they lost to Oregon, but they end up with a better path to Atlanta if they can put everything together with what's in front of them. Look, Oregon is good. They get the bye, they get to prepare, but the committee isn't to blame. They slotted this exactly how they were told to slot it. It's the conference commissioners, the presidents and chancellors, and those that are running the college football playoff that came up with this system. And it's hard for me to sit and hear Greg Sankey say anything when he was a part of this whole thing and what we saw.
So let's talk about Tennessee specifically. They are the number 9 seed in the tournament. They will travel to Columbus to take on Ohio State in a first-round matchup. The winner of that matchup will play the number 1 seeded Oregon Ducks in the Rose Bowl on New Year's Day. So if you're mapping out Tennessee's path to the championship game, what does it look like? What is it going to take the Volunteers to get there?
Well, number one, Nico has to be a step above what he's been in the regular season. And I think he's been good. He's got to play great. The defensive line, though, it needs to be the otherworldly defensive line that was touted in the preseason, snap after snap. Winner gets Oregon. We know that. There's really, I don't know if you guys agree. I look at this and think to myself, there's not much pressure on them in this game, playing on the road. I think Ohio State would prefer playing on the road than playing at home. I know that sounds crazy, but if Tennessee gets off to a quick start, that fan base will turn on the Buckeyes, given what just happened the last go around, and maybe not full throttle, but especially on Ryan Day. So, I mean, house money, I don't know if you want to call it that, go that far, but I mean, look, to make the playoffs in year 1 of the expansion, there was really no drama to it except for maybe 1 week. The loss to Michigan gives Ohio State this championship type finish or bust feel to the whole thing. And they're banged up on the offensive line. Their center's out for the season. Tennessee's defensive front, best in the country. I think if they show up, they can certainly disrupt what the Buckeyes are doing offensively.
Now, Hut, outside of Atlanta, obviously that's where one of the championship games will be. But outside of Alabama, because that's been sort of the talking point lately. Alabama, did they deserve to get in? Did they not?
Right.
Is there any other team that you felt had an argument close to Alabama's, or probably an argument better than Alabama why they should be in?
Well, I don't know if anyone had a better argument than Bama,
because it would only consist of maybe 2 or 3 other teams outside of Alabama.
Right. And that to me, that's Ole Miss, South Carolina, and Miami.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, here, honestly, though, if the committee was just told, give us the 12 best teams in America, period, it would look a lot different. That's it, with the automatic qualifiers and everything, that's fine. The 5-7 model, had they stuck with the 6-6, we'd only be seeing certain teams in there, maybe not even SMU at this point. But Mace, the thing that I look at is the bye week. It's more than just the rest. It's a long time off, but the advantage of the advanced scout with this, Boise State, and I think this is very underrated. Boise State and Arizona State do not have the analysts and the staff the size of the teams that are coming full throttle for them. Looking at, and if you think about the advanced scout, that gives them more time to do that with a smaller staff and also hit the portal. And that's an advantage for them that at least evens the playing field a bit, because Georgia has like 60 plus going at it, and they're already advanced scouting right now. They're already in the portal recruiting, and they're getting their rest and preparing for a game. So I think that's that. And let's put Oregon in that mix too. It's really everybody but Georgia, and they've. If you just compare that, I'll pull the numbers. I'm going by what's online for these teams. Boise has 28 staff outside of the main coaching staff, supplemental staff. SMU with 29, and Arizona State only lists 2. That can't be accurate, but they list 2. Indiana 34, Oregon with 30, Georgia with 62. They list 62 other coaches on their website. That's a big jump between the haves and the have-nots. And if you can get the bye, which is again a huge advantage, you sit there and you're able to maybe process and get some things, take a breath, not just for the players, but for the staff. And I think that can benefit them whenever you're having to immediately, potentially, you win. You got Texas or Clemson that's looking forward and trying to turn things around to a team that had a jump on them. But also, if you're preparing for Georgia, that's a totally different approach offensively with a different quarterback. Much more mobile, more RPO. You got a week to go on that. So I do think that's a big takeaway for me. It's just the teams that wouldn't have. I'm glad that we see some fan bases that reach a certain level of excellence, like making the playoff and doing and experiencing this. But ultimately, it's not the 12 best teams. But we knew that going in.
Yeah, because they explained that to you. They explained that to everyone at the beginning. Listen, we're taking the 4 conference winners, and then everything after that we are slotted. So listen, Alabama fans and AD or whoever else, you didn't win your conference. So now you're in the sort of you left it in the hands of the committee to put you high enough that even if you don't win your conference, that you would make the college football playoff. But unfortunately for Alabama, they didn't win the last game they needed to win, and that was the Oklahoma game.
Yeah, don't lose the games that they lost, and especially to Oklahoma. And let's be honest here, guys. They were telling us already that SMU was going to get in. They were ranked ahead of Bama prior to last week. They had already assessed strength of schedule. They had already assessed all the details and all the particulars that they wanted to, and put their pieces of the pie together. They just needed to see what played out on the field with SMU and Clemson. So, I mean, do I have issue with SMU over Bama personally? I mean, I would go personally with Bama, but not by much. I mean, I think it's a much closer argument than what people are giving SMU credit for. Now,
do you think the bluff will be called of Alabama? Because this is like the second or third time Alabama has thrown up. We play a harder schedule. Maybe we should not schedule some of these hard teams, out of conference hard teams. Well, they've said that before. They've said it on more than one occasion, and yet still they still go out and they schedule, because that's just who they are. So do you think even after this, they will continue to schedule the way they have been scheduling, or do you think they will ultimately start scheduling these easier teams as a non-conference?
Well, I mean, as far as non-conference, if we're just going to look at SMU and make that argument, SMU played a tougher non-conference schedule, which is hard to believe. They played BYU, TCU, Nevada, and Holy Cross. Alabama played Western Kentucky, South Florida, Wisconsin, and Mercer. At best, that's a wash for Alabama. But their argument is within the conference, not out of it. So, I mean, there's no question which conference slate and gauntlet is more difficult to go
through. But there's no way
no
around that if that's the case. Because if you're saying your conference is the best from top to bottom, there's no way around. You lost you scheduled Vandy and you lost to Vandy, and Vandy's going to get better as long as Clark Lee is there. I believe they will get better. So there's not going to be no more of these cupcakes that you presume them to be, and you schedule them.
Well, and think about just the teams that went through their conference, albeit lesser competition, they won those games. So the Big Ten is going to argue, we won those games. We've got an unbeaten, or the ACC too. I'm talking about Indiana, SMU. This team won these games. They're unbeaten in the conference going into the championship game, an extra game they had to play. They're going to make that argument. The SEC is going to argue strength of schedule and try to point to the good loss, but Bama had bad losses. So that to me is where SMU gets the tip of the cap. But just if you're saying who's the best team, I'm taking Alabama if they're playing. I mean, that's to me that's Bama's the better team. But as far as who was more impressive down the stretch, it was SMU, and it's not that close.
Talking to Jonathan Hutton. Let's switch gears, talk a little Titans here.
Oh,
I was disappointed.
We tried to keep it away from it.
There's the obvious stuff that we can discuss, but here's one specific thing. I'm watching Joe Burrow go up and down the field every week. He's helping me, hopefully on a way to a championship in my fantasy league, because he's throwing for 300 and 3 touchdowns every week.
At least one team is winning, Willie. Congrats.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's silver linings.
You are Nashville's team.
I look at the Titans pass rush. I was so disappointed, especially at the beginning of the game when they announced that the Jaguars tackle got sick in the morning. They didn't game plan to not have him. They throw in the backup guy, and the Titans got, I think, 1 sack. I just did not see a consistent pass rush, and that's what I'm looking for week in and week out. I really want to see more pressure on the quarterback, because if they don't get it this weekend, I mean, this is counterproductive to my fantasy title, but I can't imagine what Joe Burrow could do to them.
Well, I mean, even when they sacked him 9 times, he still won the game.
Right.
Remember that? I mean, man, Willie, think about what they did at Houston and how they followed up the last 2 games.
Right. Their pass rush was a force in that game, and since then they haven't been there.
I don't understand. It hasn't been analyzed enough, and you guys have gone across the roster. I know this on 102.5, but I'm saying, like, the disappointment of the pass rush, given the fact that there have been flashes but nothing consistent. It's worse than I would have said preseason could have been the bottom of what we would see from them. And on top of that, the run game, teams are going straight up the middle. We saw Jacksonville do a bit of that too. So it's one of the worst games I've seen. I don't know if you agree with that, but the 10-6 performance, given what Brian Callahan challenged them to do, and it's a defense that only allowed 10 points, but at crucial moments all season, when you need a pass rush to show up on a big 3rd down on a drive, they haven't been able to get to the quarterback and affect the pass. And that leads to a score. And normally, especially in the first half of the season, it was following a Titans touchdown drive or a field goal. When they were trying to gain some momentum, they gave it up immediately for a defense that, good, not great. But as far as yards are concerned, they're touting number 1 defense, this and that. They're not getting the quarterback. And in this league, if you're not doing that, you're done. I mean, it's why Will Levis has had the season he's had, because the Titans don't have an offensive line and a right tackle. Well, I mean, Jacksonville didn't have their guy, and it didn't matter. That's the difference between a team that barely won a terrible football game and a team that didn't, and 2 teams that maybe didn't deserve to win. The other game, that was awful.
The other thing that comes to mind as you're talking about that is the lower possession game, where it is going to come down to the key plays, as Brian Callahan was talking about in his press conference. He pointed to 4 plays that if you make those plays, you win. The other game that I thought was an example of that was the Colts game earlier, where it's a low possession game. It's going to be close, but it magnifies those big plays. And like you said, a defense, they didn't make those plays, even though at the end of the game, they can say, well, we held them to 10 points. But in that context of the game, they didn't make the key plays at the key time. Neither did the offense. So that is something I think is important. I don't know how this game's going to go. The Bengals tend to play in more up and down, chuck it around, high possession games. But I think it also illustrates how far they have to go, because you can sit there going, hey, play here, play there. They could have won 2 or 3 more games. But that's where they really have to get better is at the key plays. It exposes plays that are there that have to be made that aren't being made.
Yeah, and I mean, look, that you allow only 10 points, you should win in the NFL. But this is kind of also a consistent theme of, well, the defense it was only allowing so many points, so let's focus on the offense. In order for them to take a step forward, it's the crucial moments, like you're saying. And normally, when Callahan's pointing out the moments in the game, he's pointing to the offense. I mean, there are moments within the defensive stands or lack thereof when they haven't done that. Now, it is tough to pick on the 10 points being allowed and 0 points in going through the third, but it's something they have to address. They have to get a pass rusher opposite Harold Landry. Have to. And normally you don't get those guys if you're waiting until the third round and beyond. So that, I mean, it's an interesting offseason because they don't have the top flight picks like you would have if you traded a number 1 pick. Maybe they trade down, but they have so many holes that are glaring issues, and not just glaring, Willie, pieces to their puzzle that have just derailed everything that they talked about. The right time, I've never seen one position completely change an entire system within 5 games. And that's what happened with the right tackle problems. They were just rotating guys because they had no answer after an off season where they thought they had an answer. Same for pass rush. And while we've seen flashes, again, it's something that they have to upgrade they have to desperately get better at both of those spots. And they still have to find the consistent quarterback play. It's a dilemma that they're going to have to figure out whenever they figure out which pick they're going to get in the top 10.
Hutton, I would like to draw your attention to this. You may have seen this, but an Ohio State representative has introduced a bill that would classify flag planting at Ohio Stadium a felony.
Can I say, as many people say to athletes, just play and stop getting into politics. Politicians, do something that is going to benefit your constituents. Stay out of sports.
Yeah.
It's called the OHIO Sportsmanship Act. And according to the bill, no person shall plant a flagpole with a flag attached to it in the center of the football field at Ohio Stadium of the Ohio State University on the day of a college football competition, whether before, during, or after the competition. Whoever violates this section is guilty of a felony of the 5th degree.
So if they play Arizona State and the guy plants the pitchfork,
technically it's not a flag.
Not a flag.
That's not a felony.
Florida State.
Yeah, Florida State's got their
It's a spear. Yeah.
If we're being real here, we're in an era where Georgia can have all of these arrests in the offseason, and the coach just doesn't do anything. It fines them through NIL. But they're going to make a felony out of planting a flag at Ohio. Come on. Yeah. Like I laugh at it. By the way, I'll admit I liked it because it's a part of the college game that I miss. The fact that they gave a crap about the emblem on their helmet and what's on their chest instead of the name on the back of the jersey. And we're talking about guys who are transferring in. They cared enough to back up their brands, who they're playing for. It meant something to them. That's really the last stand I have seen in college sports regarding that. So, I mean, if they're going to take that away, it's like storming the field. Kirk Herbstreit wants to do away with that. I mean, I don't. Let's just do not become the NFL. Instead, I actually enjoyed the fact that they didn't swap jerseys at the 50-yard line after the game. I don't want to get college sports to that. I realize sportsmanship is something that nothing good came of the fight, but this is harmless if you don't react to it and if you win the game. I realized there was a trickle down effect where it led to Texas A&M protecting theirs against Texas. College football, you live and die for not just your week, but your year is made based on whether or not you beat Michigan or if Michigan beats Ohio State. Take that away. I mean, let's get as sterile as you can become, and that's what's going to happen with this. And honestly, the Herbstreit, who's got a massive voice in all this, he's on the side of the felony, which is also kind of crazy.
Seriously?
Well, I mean, he was saying that he wants people fined, and he was on Dockage the other day saying if you find the players $1 million, they'll never do it again. I'm thinking, what?
Exactly.
Now,
like,
Well, you don't need to legislate it, but I will
Exactly.
say
you find the coach. I'm like,
find
it's like
find another
field,
way
Willie.
to show your passion, though.
Nope.
If
Well,
you put the flag down,
that's
you're
fine.
starting a fight. That is what you're going to do. You're telling everybody in the stadium, I want to start a fight. That's not necessary. Find
Knuckle
another
up.
way to show your passion.
just
Because I'm with you, Hut. I love the response,
We've
but it's
seen that before, though,
automatic,
Willie,
and I
without
don't
the
care what.
fights.
If you do that,
Mhm.
you will fight, just like the goofball that runs on the field at a game who's
getting
drunk and
taken
wants to
out.
show all his buddies.
Okay.
Yeah, you bet me, I'll go on the
Let
field.
me-
Bet me $100.
let me
I'll
say
go
that.
on the field. You know that guy is going to get pummeled,
Okay.
pummeled, and
But guess what?
arrested. That's fine. You want to do it?
Okay.
That's what will happen. If you want to
Yeah.
plant a flag, you will get pummeled. You will start a brawl. That's
That
what you
is-
want.
listen.
Okay.
Listen, that's far
There's
from Coach
the dumb
Willie.
tax to this. Hang on. How many times have you seen someone run on the field and it's shown on TV? They don't show it.
I know. But
And
somebody's
how
got
many
their
times have
phone
we
out.
seen
You'll
the
see it
replay
on
of this
social
fight?
media.
Well, that's fair. But how many times did we see a replay of this fight over and over and over again on ESPN? And they're the ones screaming for punishment on this. If you don't promote it, it's not going to happen. And if no one saw it, then no one saw it. But that to me is the promotion of it, and then the complaining about it and the back and forth. I mean, again, I miss the true rivalry. The rivalry weekend. We were clamoring when they made this expansion, when conference expansion happened. Do not take away the heartbeat of college football with the rivalries. That this is what the passion behind it is exactly why we were clamoring and demanding that they not do that. And in some cases, we lost some of those games, but the main one stayed. And it's because of the promotion and the backing of everything that the fans want. I love it. It's it's Fulmer going. He's going to be arrested. They had a subpoena out for him. Whatever he's going to SEC media days. I mean, that's ingrained in the lure of Alabama and Tennessee.
Jonathan Hutton from Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow joining us as he does every Wednesday.
Willie.
Hutton, yes. Oh, Willie, go. Yes,
Willie, I'll be on. I would want you on my side if we're going to fight.
Oh, if you get my blood boiling the right way, I seem like Mr. Nice Guy most of the time. But if you plant the flag on my logo, it's happening. Just like here's another one that sets me off.
Yeah.
And Auburn did this at Vanderbilt last year. It was easy to kick Vanderbilt where they were down, but Auburn's got the game won. They're up by 25 or whatever, and they throw a nice little. Everybody stop playing. Right? It's the shot clock's off. Run the clock out. Shake hands. Go celebrate in your locker room. They threw an alley-oop, and the guy does a dunk contest dunk.
Yeah.
It. Now that's what gets me going. I'm ready to get in that guy's face, and I don't care if that guy's taller or what. I mean that. And John Pelfrey did that on our court one year for Kentucky. It's the only time we lost to Kentucky when I was at Vanderbilt at Memorial Gym, and Pelfrey did that, and he got hooting and hollering. We weren't defending it. Kevin Anglin got right in his face after the game, and absolutely, I mean, nose to nose, like you don't do that. See, it's just simple stuff. You know that going in, it's going to elicit a response when you do that.
Yes, but final thought for me is in that moment, Auburn Vandy. I'm agreeing with you in the game with Michigan and Ohio State. I mean, we kind of know going in, that's what they're going to do. Michigan can't walk through a tunnel without getting in a fight with Michigan State. So, it doesn't take planting a flag to get them going or get the opponent going.
I don't think you have anything to worry about the rivalries. I think we're okay.
Well,
the rivalries will be fine. We just don't need to plant the flag.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'm going to plant the flag on this conversation.
Plant the flag.
I'm planting the flag. Hutton, great stuff as always. We'll talk next week.
Sounds good, guys. Have a great rest of the week.
You as well. Jonathan Hutton joining us on the program. Willie, Safe travels to Dallas. We'll see you on our,
Arrivederci.
we'll see you on our television.
Actually, I am going to stay a little longer because we have a slight delay in the flight. So
Okay, well, we've got
You're
some
s-
breaking college football news that we'll get to with Willie coming up next.
Yes.
Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan. Some breaking news in the world of college football. According to Inside Carolina, North Carolina is finalizing a deal to land Bill Belichick as its next football
happening.
coach. Like, I needed another reason to hate the University of North Carolina.
Okay, here's a
Bill
serious-
Belichick reportedly finalizing a deal to become Carolina's next head football coach.
Here's a serious question, because I heard this while I was listening to this podcast, and the individual started getting into college sports and teams, considering where NIL is. And then I thought about it again once you sort of heard about some of the demands because per ESPN, they talked about Belichick giving Carolina this big binder of things he wanted and things how he wanted the program to be ran. Will there come a day, and I'm asking both of you this because it seems like it's headed down that way. Will there come a day where these college presidents, CEOs start selling off their programs to billionaires? Because you're sort of in a sense, it's almost professional football now or professional basketball now, but just without, owners. Well, now they're implementing GMs into the fray. Is there going to come a minute where a university say, you know what, we're loan funds, we need to get some funds, sell off our program to a group of billionaires?
That's a great question, because you just heard Hutt talk about the ridiculousness of the size of the staffs. Georgia has 62 people on the staff, and he wasn't even including.
That's
coaches.
A business in itself.
Yes.
Aside from the university.
It's an interesting question, because I think a university could say, look, the further we get going on this, the less we even are connected to the players and the staff. Like, are these really students? Like, at some point, you're only a quasi student in some cases, right? I hope that through all of this business part and the money involved, that you can stay connected to a kid enough to say, look, Derek, I know this is big. We have a chance to win a national championship. You're getting paid handsomely. You want to go to the NFL. You're probably going to make it to the NFL. But it's going to help you if you go to class. Take advantage of while you're here of getting a degree. You'll be glad. You'll thank me in 15 years, 20 years that you did this. How can you expect a kid to stay focused on that when it's going in this direction? You have GMs, you have all these things.
It's easier to say that 10, 15 years ago. It was easier to present that to us.
It's getting tougher every year.
Now they're looking like, man, what are you talking about? I'm making more in NIL than what your scholarship is worth or what it will ever be worth. They're giving me $10 million. I invest that. I'm good if I invest it the right way.
Bill Belichick, during his weekly appearance on the Pat McAfee show a couple of days ago, sort of telegraphed this whole thing. But I thought his comments on what a college program under his rule, because that's what it is when you hire Bill Belichick. It's under his rule. This is what Bill Belichick said to Pat McAfee about what a college program would look like under his watch.
Coach,
well, Pat, can I just interject two things in here?
Yes,
one,
sure.
Let me put this in capital letters. If.
IF.
If I was in a college program, the college program would be a pipeline to the NFL for the players that had the ability to play in the NFL. It would be a professional program, training, nutrition, scheme, coaching, techniques that would transfer to the NFL. It will be an NFL program at a college level, and an education that would get the players ready for their career after football, whether that was the end of their college career or at the end of their pro career. But it would be, geared toward, developing the player, time management, discipline, structure, and all that would be life skills, regardless of whether they're in the NFL or in somewhere in business. And I feel very confident that I have the contacts in the National Football League to pave the way for those players that would have the ability to have the opportunity to compete in the National Football League. Whether they're good enough or not, I don't know, but they would be ready for it. I don't have any doubt about that. So, that would be the first comment that I would make, relative to the structure of the program. It would be an NFL program, but not at the NFL level.
So why? Where does class was about 12th on the list.
Yeah, he's telling you.
Oh, by the way, education.
Education. That's
well, listen,
life skills.
We might do that.
He's telling you right now, and that listen. This stuff that you may be teaching these individuals, these student athletes, and he's talking more in the football realm, but best believe those that are in the basketball realm, those that are in the baseball realm, they're listening to him. They're listening exactly to what he's saying, because that's where it has gotten. Sports is separate from the university now. No longer is it part of the university. No longer is it what we kind of experienced when we were growing up. It's totally different now. It is a big business. And if you're one of these teams like North Carolina and you're looking for a bump across the board, you bring in a guy like Bill Belichick. He's going to give you his demands of what he wants. He's basically structuring a system that if it happens in North Carolina, he will head it up across the country. This is just how this is a damn good move by Bill Belichick. This is not a today's move. This is a move for tomorrow. He's playing chess with this, because if this works, he will have his hand in everything across college football, because he has the model. He has this template that he's given to North Carolina. And the minute North Carolina says yes, Bill's like, thank you. This is not about today, because he wants ultimately his son to be the coach when he retires. This is about tomorrow and moving forward. I want to make sure I have a hand, because they just found out this business may be bigger than the NFL. So let me get my hand in it right now. And Bill Belichick is the right vessel. He's doing the right thing. And if many need to pay attention, a lot of people need to pay attention to this. And if you want to get in on college football and the financial benefits of college football from a investment standpoint, and you got some money, you better listen to Bill Belichick, because he's telling you right now, this is where it's going. It's going to be opposite. It's going to be separate from the university. We're gonna gear these guys up. We're gonna make sure they learn the things that we want them to learn based upon the NFL. But then our education is going to be something totally different from the education you're getting.
But this is the crazy
and I don't know if
thing to
that's
me.
right or wrong.
And maybe if they have time, they'll go to class.
Well,
Yeah. But no, he's saying we're going to have class, but it's not going to be class like conventional way we think about it.
Right. It may not be physics for poets and rocks for
I
jocks.
would say rocks for jocks, as I learned earlier this week.
It's he mentioned life skills, right?
Yes.
For preparing you for that may or may not include.
And what
a
did I
certain
tell you,
degree.
Willie? I said a college coach doesn't prepare you for the NFL. I've said that time and time again. They prepare you to win. Bill Belichick is like, no. I want to prepare you for the NFL.
The tricky part is, though, when he says that, the fact is, even at a great program, and North Carolina has not been on the level of an Alabama or Ohio State,
Not in football.
or LSU churning out the number of NFL players that those schools do. North Carolina has got their share, but not that big. Even at a great school, the vast majority of your roster is not going to make the NFL. And if they do, they might make a practice squad for 2 or 3 years and bounce around, but you're never going to make any real income for the NFL. You're going to be done playing by the time you're about 26, 27, if you're lucky. So when you're selling the dream to every player, what did he say? We have a NFL developmental program on the college level.
Basically.
The 100 kids that he's got every year, 6 of them will really have a career in the NFL. What are we selling here?
But what he's
he threw in the other stuff at the end, but really the other stuff should be at the top of the list.
No.
I think
Not when you're talking about this, because it's a business.
I get
but
it.
What he is saying is this: you're going to get your education, but you're not going to have to take that class or that class, because realistically, think about it. At least me, I'm gonna say me. I don't only speak for myself. The first year, probably 2, I took basically nothing that had to do with my major, nothing whatsoever. I just they were you got to take this class. It's required that you take this class.
That's
this
why
class,
I took
and it's like,
Rocks for
why
Jocks.
am I taking
I
this?
had to have
I'm
a
gonna
couple
never
science
use
classes.
it. Well, what Bill Belichick is saying, you don't have to take those classes. You're gonna take the classes you're going to need in the real life. That's the classes you're going to take.
It sounds like one of those high school programs like IMG Academy.
That's what it is. It's
That-
IMG.
That's what it is.
That's
But
all
also,
it is.
to be fair, UNC isn't usually good with having their players go to class anyways. If you think about a couple
But
years ago.
They had a little problem with
This
that.
could
They've had
be
just a little bit.
But this could be the test site for what Bill Belichick wants to do. And another guy you need to look at, and people are talking, he's Deion Sanders, what he's doing at Colorado. Now, what he's doing at Colorado can ultimately fit into what Bill Belichick is thinking, how this thing should be ran.
615-737-1025. We'll continue this conversation on the other side. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025-1063, The Game.
Hey, this is Derek Mason. You heard me tell you about Dr. Lodge and his staff at Cool Springs MD for some time. If you set out to lose weight, chances are it's not your first time setting a resolution to shed some extra pounds only to face disappointment. We don't want that for you. So I'm about to give you a solution here. At Cool Springs MD, Dr. Lodge and his team understands the frustration of this cycle, and that is why they're offering a different approach to weight loss. Their comprehensive weight loss program is led by Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and addresses the root cause of weight gain with tailored nutrition, exercise, blood test supplements, and more. They will customize a program specific to you and no one else. So connect with Dr. Lodge at CoolSpringsMD.com today to schedule your appointment for a personalized weight loss plan just for you. That's Cool Springs MD, where your weight loss journey becomes a success story.
Join Jared Stillman, Chris Sanders, and Derek Mason downtown at JBJ's Nashville this Sunday for the pregame show from 9:30 to 11:30. They will break down the Titans' Week 15 matchup against the Bengals and give you the latest updates before the game. The pregame show is presented by Parman Tractor and Equipment, Sundeck Nashville, Sloan's Motorcycle ATV, an award-winning Blue Note Juke Joint, and Blue Note Crossroads Bourbon. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you, talking the breaking news according to Inside Carolina, that the University of North Carolina is finalizing a deal to make Bill Belichick its head football coach. I am not the first person to make this joke, so I'm not going to be original, but we know that Bill Belichick can recruit the youngins. Have you seen his girlfriend? So he should not have any issue recruiting young men to his program. But, Derek, I think you make a really interesting point about what this could mean for the future of college football. One texter on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com says the NFL does not have a minor league. Major League Baseball has AAA. The NHL has the AHL. This is what college football will turn into, only most likely a more successful and profitable version of those minor leagues.
Yeah, and Willie has talked about this, since I've known him, about the NFL being the only professional league really that doesn't have a minor league team. They, not minor league program. They tried it with NFL Europe, but they did away with that after a couple of years.
It's a shame.
I thought they should have kept it, but they didn't. So what other avenue do players have? College is not there. College programs are not there to prepare you for the NFL. They're just not. They prepare you to win football games for them and them only. If you make it to the NFL, then great. They can use that as a feather in their cap when they're recruiting. But their job isn't to prepare you for the NFL. Their job is to win football games at the level that they're at. So at times there's not that development there. Especially now that NIL is involved in a portal. None of these guys are truly developing because they're not sticking in the place long enough to develop. Maybe Willie, you need to be a part of it because you talked about this long ago, not having a developmental program. And now it seems like Bill Belichick is sort of want to set that up in a sense.
The interesting part is how much you can get paid in this quote developmental program. You're getting paid more than that than you are your first few years in the NFL. If you make the NFL, way more than a minor league player would make in baseball or hockey.
Absolutely.
It's a crazy model. And you're not, the difference would be you might be developed to be ready for the NFL, but that's different than being able to take a quarterback and put him in the minors.
Yeah.
And let him season a little bit, teach him where he can make mistakes and stuff like that. It's still not the same thing as a true developmental system that you have in baseball and hockey.
I would shout out Tim Hasselbeck, proud alum of the Berlin Thunder of NFL Europe.
Yes.
We can talk to Tim about that. I believe we're going to have Tim on the show tomorrow. We can talk about his NFL Europe experience.
Yes.
But this is the way it's going. I mentioned IMG Academy. I mean, it's I think I predominantly associated with basketball. I believe they also have a football. I assume they have a football program.
They do.
I think of it as I always think of it in basketball. It's just like it's a school, but it's not really a school. Like you're going to train to be a basketball player with maybe some education on the side, and that's kind of what this feels like. I mean, that's just the way that's just the way it's been. Now it's just out in the open.
Well, IMG has the perfect model. And I'm sure Bill Belichick has studied that model because IMG didn't start out at what it is now. I think it started out more so as tennis, and a lot of tennis, individuals would come, and then it began to get a little bit bigger. Then guys started going down there to train from other sports because that's true. It's in a spot in Florida where it's warm all the time, obviously. A big plot of land. I think it's near Disney, somewhere around in that area.
It's in that central Florida area.
Exactly.
Bradenton, Florida.
So it was a perfect sort of like testing spot for what a potential program for all sports, housed in one building could look like. So they have the template, and I'm sure Bill Belichick looked at that and say, listen, I can do this at North Carolina. And I'm sure he picked There's a reason why he picked North Carolina. I don't think this would have been able to fly in the SEC school.
Well, he does have some family history there, right? Didn't his father coach for North Carolina as well?
Did. No telling.
His father was a coach. I don't know if he was at North Carolina, because Bill Belichick was born in Nashville, I believe, if I've got that right, because his dad was coaching.
He was born in Nashville, yes.
His dad was coaching at Tennessee Tech or something like that.
I thought it was
Sewanee. I forget.
Yeah, Sewanee. I think it was Sewanee.
Apparently, his dad spent 3 years as an assistant there before going to Navy. No, at Carolina before going to Navy.
Okay.
Before going to Navy. Why was I'm trying to remember why Bill Belichick was born in Nashville. I feel like his dad was coaching somewhere in the area, if I remember correctly. I can't recall.
Was it Vandy, actually?
Could have been.
But it's just, to me, IMG is it gives you the ability to look at something and say, okay, that model can be presented to a university,
right?
In that sense,
it comes down again to your philosophy. Mm-hmm. If your sole drive is to try to become a professional athlete, and I don't know what the percentage will be of, let's say you're a good enough athlete to get into one of these schools and play at that level, which is hard to be that good, a very small percentage. But even of those players, only 6 to 10 out of every 100 in football will actually have a career worthwhile in the NFL. Is it better to do that and spend all the time and the resources on that sort of narrow path, or broaden your horizons a little bit, have a little exposure to physics, even if it is physics for poets or rocks for jocks? But that's the idea of, a well-rounded education where you're around other people who may not have any interest in sports. You might find some of those people interesting. You might have to interact with those people someday when you're done playing, right? So what's the value of that? If you're so tunnel vision that it's only about the sport that you're playing, there's a good side to that, and it might help you get over the top and make the NFL. But the downside is, what if your peak earnings are when you're 18 to 22 and you get all this NIL money, and then when you're 30, you don't have a lot of other skills, you're done playing, and you got kind of a narrow view of life. That's what I worry about.
I think that's what Bill Belichick is saying.
If he's got that covered,
football, beside the football, you still, in a sense, you still have to take classes, but we're going to be more deliberate and more direct in regards to what we want, not necessarily what we want you to learn, what we believe will help you in the real world. Bill Belichick has been at this for a long time, so he's seen the young men come in and out of his office. He's seen the things that they've struggled with financially or trying to make their way through a new city. So he's seen all of it. He's taken recordings of all of it, and now he's able to implement it in such a way where, okay, you should take this class. Not to say it's not a class that the university doesn't offer. It's a class that they offer, but you take this class because based upon my history, based upon what I've been through, this class will help you in the future. You're not taking, rocks for jocks. Because it's an easy class, but it ain't going to help you in the future.
615-737-1025. Coming up next, Scott Ramsey, president and CEO of the Nashville Sports Council. He will join us. We'll talk the TransPerfect Music City Bowl and more. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025-1063. The Game. D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Derek Mason and Adam Vingan here with you. Willie Donick has taken off. Not literally, the plane hasn't left, hopefully, but he is on the way to the plane where the Predators will start a 2-game road trip tomorrow night against the Dallas Stars. So it's just me and Derek for the rest of the program. And joining us on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, is President and CEO of the Nashville Sports Council, Scott Ramsey. Scott, thank you so much for joining us today. Let's talk a little TransPerfect Music City Bowl, Iowa versus Missouri. What excites you most about this matchup at Nissan Stadium later this month?
I think a couple things, Adam. First of all, thanks for having me on, guys. And man, you guys got the whole place to yourself here without Willie.
He does take up a lot of room.
Feeling all that air time.
We are spreading out.
I think every year is different, Adam. It's our 27th year, and this year in particular, I think we got two teams that are excited about being here specifically. I think with the new playoff model and things like that, and we all saw it. There was just a lot of people that felt like they should have been included, should have been on the doorstep. And then from our seat, you go ahead and invite them and start kind of the marketing of your bowl game, and there's still that residual kind of feel. These two teams, hey, they combined to win 17 games in the SEC and the Big Ten this year. Certainly Missouri now has won 20 games in 2 years, so they're on the rise, and both are drivable here. I think the one thing this year is I think we're going to have a great game on the field. I think both teams are really coming in here with we're going to see some great football from the two power conferences, and we'll work hard to make it a great environment for the players. And I know our city's a star for all the fans that will come.
Scott, I know that this was supposed to be the matchup in the Music City Bowl in 2020. Of course, it was canceled because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So how important was it for you to be able to give these teams and their fans an opportunity at a redo, so to speak, and having them come and play in this game?
Yeah, it was. I try to forget that a series of events.
Yes, we all do
in our city. And also you remember, Adam, that was a couple days after. Not only was the season abbreviated, there weren't going to be any fans in the stands, but it was a couple days after our downtown bombing on Second Avenue. So a lot of things to forget about that year. But it's the first time we've had Missouri. I know they played Vanderbilt, but more importantly, the first time we've been here. And I think one of the missions of the bowl, from a tourism standpoint, has been to expose our city to fan bases that don't normally come. Certainly from an attendance standpoint, we've seen higher attendance at our game where we've had some of the local alumni bases that are prominent in Nashville really kind of, increase the sales. Here, I think we're going to see a heavy percentage of out-of-towners in the stands because both don't have a really large alumni base here. So I think we're going to see a lot of out-of-town travel. We're on Monday. We're the only bowl game on, lead into Monday Night Football. They got the weekend to travel in. And I'm really excited about kind of seeing how they turn out. So it is a good kind of mulligan, if you will, for the game from the COVID year. But more importantly, I think we're excited about showcasing the city and the two teams on December 30th.
Scott Ramsey, President and CEO of Nashville Sports Council, joining us on DVD. Scott, I know that you and your council submitted a bid to host the FCS National Championship games in 2026 and 2027. What is the status of those bids, and where do you think your bid stands out among the other contenders?
Well, Adam, that was a softball question. I think our bid stands out among all of them. But I think Derek could have knocked that one out of the park for me, I think. But, hey, I always feel good about Nashville bidding, and I've always been proud of our city and putting it up against everybody else. And it's an event that I really think our city's going to be captivated with should we be lucky enough to land it. Hopefully we'll know, I'm hoping in the next few days so we can start planning in preparation for this year's event in Frisco, if we're lucky enough to host it next year, to start kind of that 1 year planning cycle for the 2 years that we bid on it. I think a couple things on that. One, it really fits a quiet weekend in our town right after New Year's Day, the New Year's Eve party. Monday night, prime time, ESPN, it took the CFP National Championship spot. It's a set of fans from the Dakotas and Montana and Idaho that are prominent. Certainly they're not the only teams, but they're they're the dominant teams historically in FCS in recent years. And man, they've been traveling at big numbers. I've been selling out Frisco at 20,000 for the last 10 or 15 years. And we really think we can elevate the event if we get the opportunity to host it with all we have here in Music City, with the renovated stadium at Vanderbilt. The size is perfect, 35,000. You know, I think we can up the attendance a little bit and certainly infuse the Music City style. It's also a national championship. You know, I mean, we had the women's Final Four. We had the U.S. Women's Golf Amateur at the golf club, but this will only be our third national championship to host in the 30 years I've been here. So that's a really exciting opportunity to be able to do it. And fingers crossed that we get some good news here in the next, hopefully, few days.
We'll talk with Scott Ramsey, President and CEO of the National Sports Council. Now, Scott, each year when you have these bowl games, you try to make it a little bit different and a little bit better for the next incoming, not just team, but their fan base. So what new things should the fan base expect that you probably didn't do last year? And then obviously, I know probably one of the big things the fan base wants to know, since they're doing construction around the stadium, the parking and stuff like that. So, you know, what about those things?
Yeah, I think, Derek, we're in a time period with the bowls, and I know it's been talked about on your show as well, but, you know, kind of where does it go? And I think this year, you know, one of the things that we're seeing, even though we had Iowa 2 years ago, we've never had Missouri. I think some of the feedback we get from the players is they really like our schedule. You know, we do a lot of stuff at the hotel form and player hospitality room, put a lot of things in there, a lot of food, a lot of games, a lot of hangout. We do, you know, all kinds of events for the players at the now Category 10. We do the bands on the street for the fans, the alumni parties. But you know what? We've kind of got a city that Broadway kind of carries that piece. And we're pretty fortunate. We don't have to kind of artificially try to create something to drive fans to. And I think now where we are with this year and next year, before everything kind of gets reset with the transfer portal, I think we're going to see a lot of Iowa players that weren't here 2 years ago, with the turnover in the rosters and everything. So, you know, I think it'll be interesting to see kind of how all the bowls kind of stage events, but we're going to do it just like we have in the past, and hopefully balance it out between player activities, administrators. We do a songwriter event at the Grand Ole Opry House, which is pretty special. And then the fans, we roll out the night before with the parties on Broadway. So, you know, and kick off on Monday with the party. Parking, yeah, it's tough. I mean, we all know that. We've lived here. The nice thing is you got two fan bases and aren't used to, Derek, to just parking there in Lot A. You know, so they're going to have to adjust anyway. And I think most of it will push downtown like the Titans plan. We'll duplicate that, run shuttles, and hopefully we'll see a lot of people walking over the pedestrian bridge.
Now, what is the latest on the stadium? Is there anything new you can tell us as far as the progress of the stadium?
No, I can't. You know, I mean, that's kind of over there on the Titans construction side and all of that. I will tell you, though, that we continue to kind of think about what events can we pursue long term. I say long term in the next 3 to 7 years. When the stadium is complete. From the college football standpoint, I think, you know, a lot of questions about the playoffs and championship game. Yes, is the answer. I think where we are now is we're waiting to see what the postseason of college football looks like in 2026. I think that's up in the air significantly. You know, are they going to stay on campus for games? Or are they going to maybe go to more campus games? Are they going to go to less? Are they going to go to 12, 14, 16 teams? Are they going to stay in bowl games for semis and quarterfinals? Or are they going to go to, you know, neutral sites, or are they going to bid those out? So we're trying to be prepared to be very reactive and aggressive to promote Nashville, to insert ourselves somewhere in that system whenever that system is designed and allowing for us to kind of pursue things. So we're kind of in a wait and see there a little bit, but certainly excited. The new stadium's really opening up a lot of doors for us, and we're optimistic that we'll have some good opportunities.
Scott, I have to imagine whenever somebody comes up to you and talks about the new stadium, they're clamoring for a specific event. You mentioned the college football playoff. I'm sure people are talking Super Bowl, Final Four. As a wrestling fan, I would love WrestleMania. I know SummerSlam has been here. I would love WrestleMania. When you talk to people about which events could come to the new stadium, which ones do you hear most?
Yeah, all those. Adam, you kind of hit the big four, really. I think that the covered stadium really opens that door for us that we couldn't bid on before. Let's take the men's Final Four. I mean, they're bid out through 2031 now. So, some of that is also kind of tempering a little people's expectation of timing. Some of these big events like that, you need 2 and 3 and 4 years to plan, fundraise, organize, and get everything in line, because it is a city job to kind of pull together. And you start thinking about needing a convention center for 14 straight days. You need 15,000 hotel rooms all booked. You got transportation, security plans, facility plans, hospitality. So when these massive events take multiple years to get in the queue to host, because you're also on the timeline of the rights holder, whether it's the NFL, the NCAA, the CFP, WWE, or whatever. So, once you're in the queue, then you've got to start, kind of the planning cycle. So, I think when you start looking out to the late 20s and early 30s, we feel like we're lined up pretty well for that. I think the other thing is to kind of always keep in mind when you talk about it is also the East Bank development, because you've got to kind of sync that up. And you don't want to host a Super Bowl or WrestleMania or Final Four with a bunch of cranes between the river and the new stadium, because you're going to need that space for media compounds, corporate hospitality compounds. So, hopefully those things will kind of line up to where we'll be able to kind of time those out when we're looking at those big events.
Scott Ramsey, President and CEO of Nashville Sports Council, joining us here on DVD. The TransPerfect Music City Bowl, Iowa versus Missouri, is on Monday, December 30th at Nissan Stadium. Scott, thank you so much for joining us. It was great to catch up. We'll talk soon.
You're welcome, guys. Have a good one.
You as well. Scott Ramsey, President and CEO of Nashville Sports Council, joining us on DVD. I would love a WrestleMania. I was not here for SummerSlam, unfortunately, which was at Nissan Stadium a couple of years ago. I was out of town. I've always wanted to go to WrestleMania. So, Scott, if you're still listening, I think that should be first and foremost. I know Chase would be on board with that as well. 615-737-1025. Derek, unbeknownst to you,
Yes.
you have received a promotion.
Oh, have I?
I am giving it to you. I have no authority to do so whatsoever. It's not at the station. So, Chase, if you're listening, don't worry. I'm not promoting Derek to program director or anything like that. But I have given you a promotion, and I will tell you what it is next. Derek Mason, Adam Bingen, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
Zen Sports just picked the grand prize winner for the November Big Game Sweepstakes. November's over. We're closer to Christmas than not. We're in the month of December. They've picked their winner, and they are running it back again in December. See, y'all thought it was over with. Y'all thought y'all didn't have another chance at winning a big game sweepstakes, but you do. But here's the caveat now. No longer is it the pros. It's the college edition. Come on, give it up. Out of here, hand claps. It's the college edition. This time, instead of going to the big game for the pros, they're giving you a chance to go to the very first big game in the new college football tournament with a grand prize. Check this out: $10,000 cash and 2 tickets to the biggest college football game of 2025. Man, the Spartans were like 6 wins away from doing that. Yes, the one in Atlanta, people, and the ability to earn entries on every bet you place in December. It doesn't get much better than this. If you don't win the grand prize, don't worry about it. There's other prizes. You have a shot at winning some other prizes, some smaller ones, 10 small prize to be exact, which grants you $1,000 toward any college playoff game in 2025. So what are you waiting for? Head to zensports.com/sweepstakes for a full list of the rules and earn a $100 no danger wager on your first bet. That's Zen Sports, where betting just got better. Remember, gambling problems, call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 years or older to bet here in Tennessee.
D-Mace, Vingan and Donick on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Willie Donick off to Dallas with the Nashville Predators. They're back in action tomorrow night against the Stars. Puck drop at 7, pregame at 6, right here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. So, Derek, I told you before the break, I've given you a promotion. I have no authority to do this, but I'm doing it anyway. I am giving you a promotion. I am naming you senior advisor to Titans owner Amy Adams Strunk. I've got the press release. It's got a nice pull quote about how you're a great ambassador to the franchise, one of the franchise's most beloved players. People are excited to have you back. You'll do a great job, all of those things. So this is what your job is, Derek. You, again, are the senior advisor to Titans owner Amy Adams Strunk. She is going to lean on you as she tries to pilot whatever the heck is going on with her football team, because it's not been going well. And she is all ears. So you can discuss with her role and what you want her role in this to be, how you want her to portray herself, or if you want her to recede into the background. You're going to be in charge of figuring out what happens with management with Rand Carthon and Chad Brinker, and by extension, the coaching staff with Brian Callahan, personnel decisions, all of those things. So I leave it to you. I'm going to play the role of Amy Adams Strunk. I'm not going to pretend to do a Southern accent. But she comes to you and she says, Derek, as my senior advisor, I need your help in putting this proud franchise back on track. When you're coming up with your list, what's the first thing you're telling her?
First thing I would tell her is there has to be some stability. If you believe in Rand Carthon and Brinkert and Callahan, then you need to, let that be known. And I would bring up examples of the Nashville Predators and how they are transparent and they are, they make it be known. Listen, this is the move. This is what we're doing. I know we're having a bad moment here, but we're sticking with the process. We're going to allow the process to play out. Barry has talked about that, the process, allowing it to play out. I'm not sure if, she's willing to do that right now, but I would explain to her, sometimes you have to go through some hard times in order to build your program the way it needs to be built. The old adage, Rome wasn't built in a day, and it's true. If you want to have success in this league or in professional sports, it's about building. And it's about, now to an extent, it's about going through those hard times and being better from it afterwards. Now, listen, you're not going to wait 4 or 5 years for something to change, but you got to allow whatever the process they told you, whatever they said, hey, this is what needs to happen. Allow them to work their process. Allow them to sort of work their plan, their vision of what this team could look like. Don't, after 1 year, dump the program and say, let's start over, because if that's the case, then you're going to keep on dumping programs year after year after year based upon who says this or who doesn't say that or whatnot. So if these are the guys that you are looking if these are the guys you're looking to head your football team, give them an opportunity to do that. Give them an opportunity to an extent, but give them an opportunity to see the plan through. Because what happens is you keep on, this will be a revolving door. You don't like their plan, somebody else will yell or scream and say, and then you end up changing it again. Stick with something. Listen, what I found out through sports is sometimes it's worth going through the hard things. Sometimes I've had a lot of time to reflect over my whole career. Those first three years, it was good that I went through that. Those were hard times, mentally, emotionally, everything. Those were hard times in the world of football. But I'm glad I went through it because it made me a better player on the other side of it. When you jump ship different guys because things are not going well right now, you're going to continue. It's going to continue to be a revolving door. So stick with it. Allow the plan to be played out. That's what I would tell her first. Okay. Second, listen, that's not your quarterback. And I will point to her, every team, every organization that has their quarterback, the guy that they know is their quarterback, see where they are. And we can point down a line of a bunch of them. When you have your quarterback, you have at least 50% of your program all said and done. Because you can't operate in this league without a quarterback. But when you have a quarterback, look at what Kansas City's doing. They win in 1-point games. They don't have much. Kansas City doesn't have, outside of Jones and Kelsey, they don't have many marquee players at the top of their game. I look at why am I forgetting his name now? D-Hop. D-Hop is a Hall of Famer, but he's no longer at the pinnacle of his game anymore. He still is a hell of a player, but he's not at the pinnacle. You gotta have those guys that are sort of projecting upward, and you need to start with them. So first, you need to go get you a quarterback. That's the first thing, and then you need to get somebody. And I believe Rand and those guys are the guys, but they need to really sit down and assess like just the roster. Period. Like, where are we going? Okay, if we do indeed get our quarterback, where are we as a team? Even if we get our quarterback, where are we as a team? Are we still a meddling team, or are we above average to a really good team? Which one are we? If we're still a meddling team, well, what needs to be the next sort of check mark? Well, we need to solidify our offensive line, because if we don't solidify our offensive line, our quarterback, even though he may be the guy, he's going to have a hard time. He's going to have a hard road to travel. He may be able to do it a la Joe Burrow, but it's going to be hard for him. So not only make sure you get you a quarterback, make sure you get you an offensive line that can protect him.
So your first step would be to emphasize stability.
Yes,
There's
emphasize
been a
stability.
lot of turnover in this organization in key roles over the past few years.
Mm-hmm.
So you would tell Amy Adams-Strunk to hold on for now to Rand Carthon and Chad Brinker.
Yes.
The second step would be to tell Amy Adams-Strunk that Will Levis is not your franchise quarterback.
Yes, I would tell him.
Okay. And I did, to your point about the Chiefs, I saw this, I believe yesterday, there was a graphic. It was just what each team's record would be if you flipped the one score games. The Chiefs are what? 12-1, 11-1. They would be 2-11 if you just flip the scores of the one score games. So that speaks to what you were talking about with the quarterback. I mean, we all know it can change the fortunes of a franchise. Now, you did mention one thing, and and we've talked about this a little bit, and Jared talked about this yesterday, that the difference between the Titans and the Predators right now, they're both in a bad way. But the Predators have been transparent, and they make their decision makers available to explain their decisions to the fans. If you're listening to this, you are probably a Predators fan who is very upset about what's been going on this season, and I don't blame you one iota. But Barry Trotz comes on this station for 25, 30 minutes every week, and Jared peppers him with questions that you want the answers to, and Barry Trotz answers the questions. When Alex Daugherty of the Tennessean did a sit-down interview with Sean Henry that came out earlier this week. Sean Henry is the proxy to the ownership group, so he speaks on behalf of Bill Haslam and the rest of the ownership group. He's answering those questions. They aren't happy, but they are getting out there, and they are answering those questions. We don't hear from Amy Adams-Strunk unless it's in a team affiliated space. Rand Carthon, we've talked about this. Rand Carthon does not make himself available to reporters. When was the last time we heard from Rand Carthon? It was the interview. It was the interview that he did with the Tennessean after the Lions game. Well, the last time we heard from Rand Carthon in a news conference setting, I guess, would have been before the season.
I think it was July or August. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it was before the season.
It was before the season because I believe they are required to talk when the roster gets trimmed. Yes. I think they're around the combine and the draft, and I think they're required to talk when the roster gets cut down to 53. So that would have been in the summer. So we haven't heard from Rand Carthon.
Mhm.
So I imagine, and you alluded to it, another step of your program is you need to get out there and you need to talk to the fans about what the heck is going on.
Okay, this is how I put it to you guys this morning. But before that, I'm gonna say this. I get financial reports quarterly, just to tell me, how the stock market is, how investments are going, yada, 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 whatever. And I enjoy looking at those things. I don't quite understand all of it, but if I don't understand, I can call my guy and he can sort of explain what's going on. But the fact that they send the quarterly reports and everything, they give a detailed sort of what's going on, that makes me feel like, okay, they're keeping me aware of what's going on in the market and everything. So now if I want to know something outside of that, I can call him every week if I want to. He'll pick up the phone and we'll talk. He has no problem with that. But at least they are giving me their quarterly reports on how your finances are doing and whatnot. Why isn't the Titans, and I'm not asking for them to do what Barry does, come on every week, with Jared or on this station. I'm not asking for that, but at least give your fan base a quarterly report, okay, of how this team doing. Because what the Predators are doing is they're depositing. You get what I'm saying, people? They're depositing into you, the fan base. You may not like where the team is at now. Hell, I don't like it. Barry doesn't like it, but he's depositing. And the deposit is he gets on every week and he tells you about the organization. He tells you where they're at. He makes you, even though you're upset that the team is not winning, he says something in there that makes you feel, okay, it's going to be all right. Barry's going to get it together. All right. That's a deposit he's putting into the fan base because he knows, man, it may get lean the rest of the season. And if I'm depositing into the fan base, they're going to stick with me a little bit longer. Titans, y'all are doing nothing but withdrawing. That's all y'all are doing. Y'all are withdrawing. Y'all asking people to pay for stadiums. Y'all asking people to continue to come to the games. Y'all are taking from your fan base. You're not giving to your fan base. Look at what the Predators are doing. Deposit into your fan base, and the deposit would be put Rand out there quarterly so he can at least sort of kill some of the angst with the fan base, because right now they are not even angry at you no more, and that is bad. That is bad. They're not even mad anymore. That's not it. The whole saying is, listen, if the coach ain't yelling and screaming at you, you need to worry. Because now he done forgot about you. He see you not even getting it anymore. So he's moved on to the next person. That's what the fan base is doing. They're not mad anymore. They're not. So you don't have to worry about the fan base being mad at you. They're not. They're just fed up and they're just like, whatever. It was evident last weekend, Titans, when we do our show, which is usually packed. It was at the beginning of the season because there were high hopes. Packed.
The pregame show.
The award-winning pregame show, myself, Jared, and Chris. It was packed, but now ain't nobody showing up. They're telling you. Why? Because y'all are taking from them. Y'all are not giving them anything. So deposit into this fan base first and then start asking for stuff back. Y'all are building a new stadium and y'all asking for that money. But y'all are not doing the things that is going to deposit into the fan base.
Randy on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, says, Derek, you're fired. We're going to start our stability plan next year with an experienced GM. Hold on. Hand them the keys. Send Amy on a 2-year cruise around the world. Then make Jared her senior advisor and Willie as president of Common Sense.
Look, here's the thing. And this is sort of the narrative that has been painted. And I've heard it on our airwaves. And I think it's completely wrong. Y'all act as if Amy has been meddling this whole time. She hasn't. She's made 2 decisions, okay? Now, albeit we can look and say they probably were bad decisions looking back at it now, but 2 decisions, well, there were bad decisions when they were actually made, not that it was an actual bad decision, because many people felt that she should have waited till after the season with Robinson. And I'm not sure if many people think Vrabel was a bad decision, but I'm gonna say that's 2, okay? She's made 2 decisions. Whisenhunt needed to be fired, okay? So if y'all want to say, oh, she started meddling with Whisenhunt, hell, he needed to be fired, and y'all knew it, okay? All right, so you move down. And then the Malarkey thing. Hey, listen, John Robinson, that was a John Robinson issue. He didn't want Malarkey as his head coach. And the owner said, you know what? You are running the team. You're my GM. Hey, go. If you feel he needs to be fired, you fire him. So again, how many times, where's this narrative that Amy is always meddling in things? Damn it, stop that crap. Because the more and more you say it, just like damn politicians, the more and more they tell a lie, y'all tend to believe the lie. Stop believing a lie. It's a lie. She hasn't been meddling like that. You want to see a meddling owner? Go over to Dallas. That's a meddling owner. That's an owner that sticks his hands in everything. Amy has made a few decisions here and there. You may not like the decisions. I get that. But that doesn't mean she's meddling. So please stop with that narrative, people. Okay? But again, okay. And then, so you say, so they're saying, well, get some competent football people. Who is a competent football player? Who is a competent football person? I want our great listeners that listen to us or Jared or Big Joe and Chase or the morning show with Rex and Robbie. Call in here or text and tell me who would be a great football guy. Just give them to me. Give me all of them. And I'll look at them. Okay. She found the best guy for the best job. Y'all act as if Rand Carthon just woke up one day and said, hey, I want to be a GM. I have no football experience or whatnot. I want to be a GM. Can I throw my hat in the ring? And Amy said, you know what? Because I made so many damn bad decisions. Rand, you're the GM when you have no experience at player personnel or anything else. Stop with the lie, people. Stop with it. Stop believing that lie. You may not like Rand Carthon and what he's doing, but to say he's not qualified, damn it, that's a lie. Okay? It is a damn lie, and stop believing it. All right? Now, if you want her to just hire somebody else, just say that, but don't say bring in some competent football people. Y'all don't know what a football person is if they fell in your lap. That's what I'm saying. Stop believing a lie. If you want to change, just say that, but don't say, oh, bring in a real. Well, what is a real football player? Because the last I checked, Rand was on some really good he was in some really good organizations before he got here to Nashville. So again, where is, you're saying, well, get a real football guy in there. Rand's not a real football guy because you may not like the moves that he's made. Just say you don't like the moves that he's made. Don't say he's not a real football guy. That is disingenuous because you don't know the job that he has to do. Hell, you don't know the job. And frankly, for that matter, anybody that is saying that, they don't know the job that they have to do to sit here and say, get a real football guy in here. Now, if you say, just get another GM, okay, I'm good with that. And the head coach, I'm good with that. But don't throw out this narrative that, oh, he's not a football guy. Stop it, because it's a lie.
615-737-1025. You heard Derek. 615-737-1025. We'll do that next. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025-1063. The Game. D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. One text on our text line from Tyler says, Derek's rant is my biggest problem with what Jared has been saying. I actually fully agree with him that they need to clean house in the front office, but not because I think Carthon isn't a football guy. It's because I think Rand probably got a job a little too early. It wasn't quite ready to go from number 4 in the pecking order to number 1. And I think Amy really screwed up the chain of command with how she's handled him and Chad Brinker. It has nothing to do with his qualifications as a football guy. I think the system is broken and Rand isn't ready for the job yet.
Again, how do you know Rand's not ready for the job yet? He's only been in it really. Okay, I'm gonna give you the 2 years. I would tend to say because of the whole thing with Vrabel and he and Vrabel is probably really, a season and a half or just really this season. For that matter. Listen, if y'all and listen, you can have your opinion. I'm just talking about the lie that is being spewed that he's not a football guy. I even told the guys, listen, if you want to fire him, if you don't like him because of the moves he's made, then okay. But don't sit here because that's every GM. Every GM is not going to make, 100% of the moves, 100% of the time. There's going to be more times than not they're failing rather than, going out there and hitting on individuals. It's just that if you hit on the right guy, it's easier to miss on some other guys when you hit on that right guy. And we all tend to gear toward that quarterback as being the right guy. If you hit on the quarterback, then you can miss on some of the other players around you. But again, if you are just saying that, okay, Rand Carthon missed on, this guy or that guy, then okay. But don't sit here and say, well, he's not a football guy. Hire real football guys. What are real football guys? How do they look? What do they smell like? What do they say? I don't know. Do they got a lot of hair? Do they have no hair? What does a football guy look like? Okay. That's all I'm saying. And I've said, if you want to fire him, then okay, fire him. It's not my problem if you want to fire him. My thing was stop with the lie of one, that Amy's always meddling because she's not. And then 2, that Rand is not a football guy. That's all I'm saying. But if you want to say just fire him and let's start all over, well, you need to fire the head coach too. Because if you don't fire the head coach and you fire the GM and keep the head coach, you're going to end up running into the same problem once again.
Randy on our text line mentioned something, and then we'll get to our phone line. Randy mentions that on a serious note, fans are sort of left to their own devices when it comes to determining whether Rand Carthon is or is not a good GM because he doesn't communicate with the fans. And that is the catch-22. If Rand Carthon does not want to address reporters, and by addressing reporters, he's really addressing all of you. If he doesn't want to do that, that's his prerogative. But we then have to fill in the blanks ourselves. And it comes up, then the things that we talk about on the station, those come up because we don't hear from Rand Carthon. The interview he did with the Tennessean, which was in print, after the Lions game with the ball now bouncing our way. We didn't hear the tone. We didn't hear it did not do him any favors. But Wes is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Wes, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Oh, good afternoon, guys.
Hey.
I've actually, I've got a question for D-Mace, a question for Adam, and then a question that I would like for y'all to answer together. Is that okay?
Sure.
Yeah, go
for it.
All right. So, Derek, I'm going to start with you first. Can you tell me what Callahan's job is, and can you tell me what Rand Carthon's job is?
Callahan's job is to coach the team. Rand Carthon's job is to build the team that Brian Callahan can then coach. You tell me, Brian, what you need in regards to the team, players, whatnot, and I will make sure I go out there and get those type players. That's sort of a condensed version. I know it's probably a little bit more detailed than that, but just to kind of
that's
quickly
actually perfect. That's exactly what I was looking for. And then Adam, what is Burnett's job and what is Barry Trott's job?
Andrew Burnett is the head coach of the Nashville Predators, and it's his job to get the best out of the players. That Barry Trotz, who is the general manager, it's It's Burnett's job to get the most out of the players that Trotz brings in.
Okay, so with that being said, then if y'all could collectively tell me, why is everybody saying fire Ran Carthon, but they're not saying fire Barry Trotz, and they're wanting Burnett's job? Like, I can't understand the two. So if y'all could just help me bridge that gap, I greatly appreciate it.
That was a great question.
That's a good question, Wes. And we'll see if we can answer it with the time allotted. So
you want me to go first, or you want to go first?
I'll take a stab at it. So, well, part of it is where the respective teams are. The Titans have been a bottom of the barrel franchise now for a few years. Since they fired John Robinson, they have been the second worst team in the NFL, I believe. I believe the Carolina Panthers are the only team worse over that span. They haven't made the playoffs in a few years. And look, there are some similarities. They both GMs spent a lot of money in free agency. But I don't include Barry Trotz in this, actually. This is more of a David Poyle thing. But the Predators did have a run recently where their first round picks did not turn into anything. Or anything that's still on the roster. Dante Fabro, Philip Tomasino, Yaroslav Askarov, Eli Tolvanen. That's a David Poyle issue. That's not a Barry Trotz issue. I mean, I do think that it helps that people around here adore Barry Trotz. He's, I think that buys him some goodwill. And it buys him goodwill that Barry Trotz is accessible and transparent, which Ran Carthon is not.
And I think that's the only thing.
And the Predators made the playoffs last year.
I think that's the only thing. Because people still argue about the Predators. They're still peeved that they can't get past the first round. That's all we heard when they lost in the first round. See, they can't get past the first round.
The Predators haven't won a playoff round in 6 years, and I think it's going to be 7 because I don't think they're making the playoffs.
Exactly. So it's like they don't get past the first round, whether it's Poyle or Barry. So that was an argument, period. My thing is, and I will continue to say this, Barry is depositing. That franchise is depositing. The Titans are not. When you don't send Ran Carthon out there to talk after the trade deadline, when you don't send Ran Carthon out there to talk when there's a lot of sort of instability with your quarterback, when you don't sort of douse some of the flames out there, this is what ends up happening. Barry is depositing into the bank for your good graces. And everybody's giving it to him. They may be mad again. They're upset. I get it. But they're believing in Barry. Why? Because he gives them a message every week. Like, listen, I'm going to tell you what's going on. I'm going to give it to you from the heart. I'm going to tell you, whether you like it or not, or agree or disagree, this is how I feel as a GM. This is how I see it as a GM. That tends to buy you some good graces for a while. Not for the whole time, but at least hold some people back. Well, Ran Carthon isn't doing that, and the Titans are not doing that. I think that's one of the major problems, besides the winning, I get it. But I think that's one of the major problems. When things are done, we don't see the guy that is in position to talk. We don't see him talk. We see the head coach talk about things that we believe the not the owner, but the GM should address.
Yeah, and it's easy to be available when things are going well.
Exactly.
Now, things haven't really been going well for Ran Carthon as GM of the Titans. The win-loss record speaks for itself. But it's what you do in these certain times, like the Predators are going through right now. I mean, if Barry Trotz were to say to Jared, look, I'm not really interested in doing these weekly chats anymore. The team's not playing well. I don't want to do it. Like, what would we think about that? Like, we would be upset. We would accuse Barry of front running. And that's not what Barry Trotz does. Look, Barry Trotz, the decisions he's made this offseason have not worked out. I heard him on his interview with Jared yesterday saying, in hindsight, maybe he should have been a bit more creative in trying to get a center instead of, not saying that he would not have signed the players that he did, but maybe he would have tried to be more creative in getting a center, because clearly that's an issue. But he said it. He said, yeah, I could have gone about this differently. And does it change the fact that the Predators are the worst team in the NHL? No, it doesn't. But he is getting out there and showing the fans that he hurts just as much as you all do. and it's not acceptable to him. And look, we learn about people. I think we learn most about people in times of crisis.
Mhm.
And I don't want to exaggerate what the Predators and Titans are going through as a crisis, but things are not going well. So I do think that Ran Carthon has not done himself any favors and has not purchased any goodwill by being invisible while this franchise continues to descend into the Cumberland.
And and on the flip side of that, Barry has.
Yes.
Whether you may look at it as, he's offering up too much information, but he's being honest in his assessment of this team. He talked about maybe the expectations were high, and we have not come close to meeting those expectations. But what he stresses is that I feel just like you, the fans. I'm mad just like you. I'm upset just like you. But I can't present myself in a way that you presented because I'm running a franchise.
Right.
And and that's what people want from Ran Carthon, that he feels like them. They just want to hear it, and they want to hear it more than once or twice a year.
Exactly. And we will continue this conversation tomorrow. We have a special edition of Force Company, I believe, coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Nick Keyser filling in for Jared. We will be back tomorrow at 11. 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
Be loved, loving your people. Have a wonderful and blessed Wednesday. Peace.
You don't have to go home.